London. We have three special guests with us today. We have Sam Eden from Federation Master Builders, Alison Stone and Samantha McLaughlin from CITB. So I will let all three of them introduce themselves briefly, starting with Sam.
Hello everyone, I'm Sam Eden, as Peter alluded to. I'm the London Director for the Federation of Master Builders. We are predominantly a regional organisation, so I represent SME builders in and around London. We are a non-profit that was set up in 1941 to get access to public sector contracts, but now that's grown into being a voice and a representation for SME builders across the UK.
Thank you, Alison.
Oh, hi, I'm Alison Stone from CITB. I'm an engagement advisor for South East London. So we're here today just to help small businesses in construction, and anything that they require from us, we hopefully can answer.
And Samantha.
Hello, good morning. My name's Samantha McLaughlin. I'm also an engagement advisor for South East London, working for CITB. Much as Alison has just mentioned, we're here to support anything from micros up to large employers, obviously across London, but myself and Alison obviously are covering South East London.
Okay, lovely. So if we start off, I think a good way to start, obviously we're now coming out of the pandemic or COVID and the lockdown more and more frequently now, and there's obviously more people out going to work, and construction's always been there. But if I can ask Sam first, what are your members, or what's the current climate with your members in construction at the moment?
Climate, you mean in terms of employment?
Well, yeah, how are they, are they coming to you, and what are they asking you, sort of or what's the feedback? How are they getting on, in terms of employment, in terms of training, now that, Brexit's happened and obviously the COVID situation?
Yeah, well, we're in uncertain times, as you know, so in terms of recruitment, it's particularly sensitive because, if you take on a big contract, are you able to ensure that you can employ people, apprentices, within that time period? So the industry is booming, specifically in London, and there is work out there. There's lots of opportunities for, specifically in SME industry, for young people to take up apprenticeships and to take up employment with an SME from, say, your one-man band to 20 employees. It's available, but the problem is are they the right skilled? Are they job ready? Are they site ready? Do they have health and safety checks? So I think what the SMEs are crying out for is someone who has that initial skill level that they can take on and then build from there. Problem with the SME industry is most of the time it is only a few guys, a few people on site, so they can't dedicate 100% of their time to training someone from scratch. So what they're looking for from sort of higher education is to be able to say, we'll get these people ready, health and safety checks, basic equipment, and then make them available to the SMEs and to the Federation of Master Builders.
Okay, in terms of finding that right candidate, are there any comments around people not knowing where to go to find these people, or etc.?
Yeah, it is. London does offer a difficult platform in terms of there's so many different boroughs and regions that, for a lot of builders, you ring one university, or they tell you to call another university, or they tell you to call another company or another recruitment agent, and I think they get lost in the web of recruitment out there in London. It's quite wide, and it's so regional that they can get passed around a little bit. So I think that in those early stages they can be put off, but I think on the whole they're quite willing to put in the time and to find these people and find people that are willing to start a career in construction. But remember, this is a skills crisis before COVID and Brexit came along. Yeah. We have an aging sector of people that, you know, approaching well into their later years, specifically in SME. I'm not talking for tier one. So this has been going on for a long time. So attracting people into that industry has been a problem, you know, long before COVID and Brexit. So it's not just whether they're looking for the right people, they're looking for, we're all looking for people to enter into the industry at the moment. So I don't think it's necessarily just a matter of Brexit trying to attract people into this industry now because of Brexit and COVID. I think it's been a problem now for many years.
Yeah. Okay. If so, would your members be looking, say, for one central place where they could speak to or go and say, right, this is my requirements. Can you? It's like a recruitment agency, but maybe a free service where they can go and say, right, I'm looking for X, Y, Z with X, Y, Z, etc. Is that something that they are considering?
Yeah, I've spoken to you about this, Peter, before. In an ideal world, both candidates want to really ring one number, hand over their details to say, right, you know, I'm a one-man band in Greenwich. I'm looking for someone who has carpentry skills. I'm willing to take on an apprentice for the next, you know, 2 or 3 years. I'll expect them to work these hours. Can you bring me 3 or 4 people in the next month? That would be ideal for an SME. You know, whether that's possible, especially with the regional element of London, I don't know, but that's what they're crying out to do, because quite often it's, can you ring this college, or can you call this recruitment agent, can you do this? And they just don't have the time. And equally, when you speak to young people, they're also calling lots of different numbers. They're speaking to lots of different builders, to lots of different colleges, and I think they get lost in it too. So ideally, I think both parties would love to be able to call one number and be able to say, for example, from a student's perspective or a young person's perspective, or anyone getting into the industry of any age, to be able to say, you know, this is my skill set, this is what I'm willing to do, and I'm willing to take on some training. Where can I go? What can I do? And someone can come back with some options for them that's really clear, whether that's a position or, you know, whether that's in higher education. But I think the key thing is for us to have some sort of relationship management there, where it's taken on full time to someone to say, well, I've got you all, speak over the next 3 weeks and I'll give you these positions, I'll give you some taster sessions, there's some work experience that you can do. But I think often it falls back into the person, the young person, or the small firm. But you know, that's an ideal world, and I know there's a lot of difficulties around that, about whose responsibility that would be. But in an ideal world, that would be great.
Yeah, one of the things with the Mayor's Construction Academies, there's 7 of them across London, which all have their own regions attached to them. So, for example, my regions are Croydon, Merton, I have to do it in alphabetical order, Richmond, Sutton, Kingston and Wandsworth. Yeah, so we've got 6 boroughs, so that's what we do. And then there's other boroughs, so literally all of the boroughs in London are covered in terms of, you know, a borough for London for everyone. So my thinking behind that, when you've said about this sort of one place to go, is our role really is to coordinate across the boroughs. So I'm the central person coordinating everything across boroughs that we have, and each individual hub manager should be doing the same with their individual hub. So maybe it's something we can consider, that there be sort of one point of perhaps contact, and maybe then it could be passed across to that particular section of the hub. If it's North London, maybe a North London hub, Barking, Dagenham, that sort of region, somewhere around there, to the east or the west or south, or even down to Bexley, you know, that way. Maybe that's something we can discuss later on, that maybe we use one central place, and we, you know, I'll sort of say, right, I'll be central person, for example, and then I distribute to say, right, they're looking for people in that area, looking for people in that area, and maybe we can work something out and see. You know, that's the role of the hubs. The hubs are central to a certain amount of boroughs. So why are we not central to London in that respect? You know, so yeah, that's a really good point, and thank you for that, and well taken. so the training and employment for your members, out of all, I'm just trying to think about so for example, what is it that keeps members, or what how do you keep members? What are you giving members to keep them on board? So you have, the Federation of Master Builders there, and what is it that has members on board and keeps them there?
Right. So the building industry is famously unlicensed. So what you have is you have a situation where people really don't know what they're getting into in terms of contracts, in terms of understanding who they're taking on. If you were to go to a directory site, have someone come to your house, tell you this amazing build that they can do. They can build you an extension on the back of your house, and it's going to cost you this, and this is going to be your deposit, and I need you to pay that within the next 5 days, and you hand that person £20,000, and then you possibly could, never see them again, because they don't have that same structure around the industry that you would with maybe an architect. So what the Federation of Master Builders are is it's a quality stamp. It's all of our builders are vetted, approved. They have to be working for a certain amount of time. We look at their work and we vet them, specifically at the beginning and then onwards through their membership. So it's really about giving reassurance to the public that they're taking on a master builder and that they can be trusted in that. We also have a disputes resolution process. So if there was to be a case where there was a situation where either party were unhappy, they can come to us and we can mediate that as well. So really, when you look at the stamp of, you see the logo on a van, it says that this person can be trusted. But we offer so much more to our members as well in terms of, training specifically, so they can come to us and have training with the FMB, and they get access to sort of contracts, and we do a lot of documentation and things like that for them, because these are small firms that don't have access to huge HR teams and legal teams, so we provide that service as well. And we're a non-profit, so we're not financially driven by what the industry says we need to do. We're driven by what our members want, so we are for the members, by the members. So our governance system is made up of regional boards that are built up of SME builders, and that goes up to a national board, and they're the people that make the decisions on what needs to be done in the industry specifically for SME builders. So yeah, main thing, stamp of quality for the client, but hugely for the SME builder, it's a support network for them as well.
Excellent, thank you very much. Just one final thing for me, around sort of contract tendering, bids for contracts. Is that something you support them with, or you can give them a guide to where they could get support from if they're looking to tender for contracts elsewhere?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a very big topic that would need to, we can support with that. I mean, I would advise people to, members to give me a call to discuss that through, because, there is lots of kind of difficulties when it comes to taking on public sector contracts when you are a small firm, in terms of, the documentation involved in that, and the time it takes, and the amount of money it takes, and how, often the larger firms have the access to those departments that can build them huge Q&A systems, and can maybe have early sight of public sector contracts. So there's a lot that they need to do to start up if that's the industry that they want to work in. So definitely give me a call before they go into that market.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much, Sam. That's really useful information. I'm going to switch to Alison and Samantha both. So for me, the CITB, now I will say from my experiences being in the game a very long time, and in all kinds of sectors of the industry as well, is I will tell you straight what people say to me. And obviously I don't, there's always two sides to different stories and whatever. But what people say to me about CITB is, they're the tax offices. We sign up to them, and we're gonna, they're going to inform the tax office, etc. What am I going to get out of CITB? what do they do, etc. And I think it's a lack of understanding of what the CITB is and what it does. So one of the things for me is to dispel some of those kind of myths. Is can you just give us a sort of 10-minute rundown of what 10 or 15-minute? I mean, I obviously don't want to be here all day, but what is basically what is CITB? What is their role? And is it, again, is it a member organisation? Is it compulsory? I know some of this, so I'm not going to give some of it away. So I'll let you, just explain all about CITB if you could, please.
Right, okay. Obviously, CITB are there for industry, and they basically we're there for construction, and we're there for what industry want. And the reason why some companies don't understand regarding the levy, they think, oh, we pay the levy, what do we get out of the levy? And also as well, saying about whether it's mandatory, if a company is working 61% in construction, then it is mandatory really that they should be joining CITB, because what happens is the levy that they end up having to pay goes into industry and then comes back out again for training, apprenticeships, short courses, skill and training funds that all employers can apply for. Now, a lot of them do say, what do we get? And that's what they get. We're here, the levy will go in and it will go back out again to industry for training. And that's what we're here for. So CITB have employed more engagement advisors, especially in London, to cover all of the boroughs, work with the hubs, work with the training centres, contact all the employers, especially the ones that joined on with the federations. So we're there to introduce ourselves, to be there to support industry with their training, and obviously, and especially with apprenticeships and that as well. So going back to the levy, if a company's PAYE and CIS net is under 120,000, they don't have to pay any levy. So what would happen is they can still have all the support from us. They can still have all the training, the apprenticeship grants. So they just won't have to pay the levy. The only thing that they will have to do is fill out a levy return. So they need to fill out a levy return every single year, even if their wage bill is under the 120,000. And obviously for the bigger companies, if the net CIS and the PAYE is over 120,000, there is a percentage that they have to pay. So I believe, Sam, is 0.35, isn't it? The percentage that, depending on how much it goes up for their PAYE, depends on how much they put into industry. But it's only there for money to help employers, micro, medium, large employers, to train. And that's what we're there for. We're there for support. We have hundreds of apprentices that we've trained and we've helped with the colleges and universities. And we also work with the schools, we work with the universities, and we're working with all different people in the boroughs to try and be sort of not like a one-stop shop, but our contacts there, that's what we're there for. We're there to help. And that's anything else you can think of, Sam, to add to that?
No, not really. I think, much as Alison has said, I think a lot of employers don't realise what we can do for them. And there's such a large proportion, and I'll only talk about London because that's where we're focused on. But I think there's so many employers within London, perhaps micros and smalls, that don't realise that they are eligible for grants. Not just to take on an apprentice, but also to apply for a skills and training fund grant, which would be to upskill existing staff. So I think like you say, CITB may have a bit of a bad press, but we are there purely to support industry, to support employers of any size, and to offer things like work experience placements, taster days. Everything's virtual at the moment, obviously because of COVID, but I think perhaps if employers did get in contact with us, we could then obviously give them a lot more information than perhaps what they know already, which sometimes is just perhaps a negative view of what we do, rather than all the positive work that we do. So
yeah, sorry, Alison. Yeah, I mean, for me, this kind of session is quite important, really, because if we can try and get the message out there, this obviously we can present this session, and we can try and get that positive message out there, because I think there is a lack of understanding around what CITB does, and a real lack of understanding of what it means. And I think it's a lack of understanding, really, of what it means to become a member of an organisation. So like the Federation of Master Builders, like Construction Line, Chas, and all those. It's I think it's just a lot of people are either don't bother looking at it and think that they're okay, they've got a good business structure, they've got good word of mouth, etc. And maybe this is the time. It's like there's added benefits if they actually seriously considered CITB Federation, etc. and so on. So yeah,
definitely. I think as well for the smaller companies, Peter, I think it is a lack of understanding, or they might not be great with IT skills, and they think, oh, how am I going to do that? And if I need to fill out forms, but that's what we're here for. If they need some training, all they've got to ask is, what do we need to do? And that's why they've employed more advisors in London to help. And at the moment, obviously, we're contacting all the companies, as many as we can, obviously, because it's thousands, and just explaining, introducing ourselves to what we do, and for them to contact us.
Okay, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's good information. So yeah, I mean, another sort of question for this is really for everybody. In terms of going, the future of construction as it is at the moment, have you got a view on where you think will be, let's say, Christmas? I don't want to go too far ahead. I'm just saying, has anyone thought about, looking forward? I know that everybody's sort of trying to plan ahead with what's going on in construction at the moment, but do we see things improving maybe, or are they going to get worse? That's probably a very difficult question, but if you can all just have a say on it, that'd be quite good. So to start with Sam first, if you don't mind, please. Sam Eden, please.
Yeah, so the construction industry, I'll only speak for SME, because that's who I represent, but is in a good place because, in many ways, people are adapting their homes to live and work at home. So for us, they're building loft conversions, they're building extensions, they're adapting their home and their workplaces as well to fit around this new culture that we live in now. So the industry is doing well, on the whole, specifically in London. A lot of firms are getting lots of contacts from clients about certain jobs, and so the industry is handling the pandemic rather well. The problem is around material shortages, which is the biggest difficulty, because if your phone is off the hook with people trying to build extensions in their house, but you have no access to timber or cement, you can't do that. You can't go and build that property. So as well as the industry can be doing well, but the supply chain needs to be there for them to be able to succeed. So that's the difficulty. So if you are coming into the industry, if you are looking to start a business in construction, there's so many different factors that can affect that, and it's not just whether you have all your contracts and your business in place. There are external factors that can affect you, and that's what's happening at the moment. So December, in terms of inquiries, will be high, but the difficulty is, will the supply chain, will it have improved by then? I doubt it.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Alison, Samantha, any other suggestions or any other comments regarding that?
No, I would actually agree, obviously, about the materials shortage. What I would say was, with apprenticeships and training, that will only improve, I'm sure, as industry, gets busier and everybody's out there. I think at the moment it's a bit of a scaremonger, isn't it? Where they think, oh, if I take on an apprentice or if I take on a new employee, will I be able to get the materials? Will I be able to be busy and be able to do the work, really? I think that might be a worry, but it's also a good time for companies to take on work experience as well. Because they most probably got the time to train a little bit more at the moment, because a lot of the work is virtual. And I think that would be a good idea, really, for them to start training with work experience.
Yeah, there's a couple of there's one other thing as well for me, which is around generally agencies, normal sort of recruitment agencies or apprenticeship training agencies are generally the ones that are used on big construction sites. Big construction sites will say, I need so many labourers, get me them from an agency. So they're just paying an invoice, and that person can come and go. If they're any good, they'll keep them. If they're not, they'll probably let them go. But for me, maybe in terms of apprenticeships, there is always the apprenticeship training agency route, in respect that I know that people have to pay the salary and plus a little commission on top, whatever that is, 12.5, maybe 15%, something like that. But it's always an option if someone perhaps thinks, actually, yes, I really do want to take someone on, but and I am unsure of the climate, which a lot of people I'm sure are, and worried about, like you say, with material shortage and everything else, 6 months, 8 months, a year down the line, are we still going to be in this shortage? But it's just another option. If you can commit to a period of time, normally minimum 6 months, the responsibility of an apprenticeship training agency is that they employ the apprentice. You pay the invoice, but then they do all of the admin work related to that. As long as you're training that person in what they're supposed to be trained in, and you can keep them going. But if there was a time when it did come and you actually, your business suffered and you could not continue, rather than that person just being said, right, which has happened before, right, sorry, we've got nothing, see you later, goodbye, we're done. That apprenticeship training agency then can move them to someone else, because we can move the apprenticeships around. The apprenticeships can be moved, whereas before the apprenticeship would normally be stuck with the company. Now it's sort of they're being able to move it from one business to another, because there is this uncertainty at the moment anyway. So that's just something that for me, I think is an option. And again, I think it's a lot of people I don't know whether a lot of people know about it or understand it, and what sort of benefits it has. Yes, you do pay a commission, of course you do, but if you're going to use an agency anyway, you're paying commission the same, whether it's an agency direct for a labourer or a carpenter or some kind of tradesperson, or use an apprenticeship training agency and get an actual apprentice and someone who can probably work and enjoy the industry as it is. And I think, me personally, I think the smaller builder, one-man band, two-man band, 10 people companies, the smaller companies, I think there's a more personal relationship with an individual when you go and work for them anyway. They haven't got to go. I was having a conversation with a group of people about some work experience, and we were saying about, if you've got 16, 17, 18-year-old and you expect them to turn up to a massive, great construction site with hundreds of people running around on there. I mean, that's intimidating for anyone. Yeah, working for the smaller builder, it is a more personal approach. It's a more personal touch, I think. Whereas, you go on a site and you're not, you're with 50 to 100 people, maybe more. It's very intimidating. So that's just a thought from me. So yeah. Okay. Is there anything you can suggest that you would like to see me, as obviously the hub manager for the boroughs that I work in, or what kind of support do you think that us hubs should be giving to what you're offering? What can we do to help you, and your members, sort of thing, move forward? Any suggestions, any comments that I can take on board? And because there's a meeting tomorrow with all of the MCA hubs, so this is if you do have any kind of suggestions how you'd like to see it. Again, Sam, you raised it earlier in terms of having that central point. It's these are sort of things I could bring up at the meeting tomorrow. So if there's any comments, suggestions you have, go ahead. We'll start with Sam again. We'll do this round table. If you've got anything, Sam, please.
Yeah, just to reiterate that message that a central point of call, maybe a relationship manager for both parties. The SME builder was looking to take on an apprentice or anyone, to have that one person to call, to give the details of, you know, they can say, I'm looking for multi-trade, or I'm looking for a labourer. They need to be this. They need to have their SDS card. Blah blah blah. They'll give the details over of what they're looking for, the same way you would with a recruitment agent. And then that relationship manager takes it away, comes back to them in a few weeks. You know, I've got 3 people. So this person is looking, they can do 6 months or this. So, you know, it takes that burden out of their very tight time schedule that they already have. And the same for the young person as well. I think even more difficult for them. Coming into the construction industry is such a minefield about where they need to start, and they get pushed from pillar to post. So if they could get a relationship manager in the capital that they can have a contact with and they catch up with and say, right, these are the opportunities that are available to you. I'll speak to you in the next few days, or we've got an interview for you on Wednesday. That kind of relationship where they feel that, you know, they're supported in becoming recruited in that area. And there was something else that I was going to say, but I can't remember it now. So you're going to miss that nugget of information, unfortunately.
Well, you can always pop an email to me with that.
Yeah.
When you think about it. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much, Sam. Alison, anything?
What I would say was really just the hubs to work with CITB, you know, and to get closer relationships. Also as well for the hubs to let us know when companies are looking for work experience or taster sessions, or any companies that, you know, want grants, you know, to sort of pinpoint who you know is your local CITB contact, and just to be in contact with them really, and to give out our details if anyone requires any information about training and skills and grants and apprenticeships, because that, you know, that's what we're there for, and we're more than happy for our, you know, names to be given out. So that's
okay. Fine. So are you able to obviously at some stage send me details of your employment advisors in each of the sort of boroughs?
Yeah, I can. That's fine.
And then, because then what we can do is, you know, we can get onto the other hubs and say, look, this is the person, you know, allocated to your sort of, you know, boroughs, and hopefully bring them all together.
Yeah, I do know that we are making contacts with all the hubs in London. So whoever's in that borough has already made contacts with the advisor. So it just means just to work together, really. That's what, you know, we're all there for one thing, aren't we, really, for industry? So yeah, and obviously we're working with the schools and colleges and that as well. So, and we're doing virtual events with them. So it's either to get yourself involved as well with us and to do on these virtual events. So it's just working together, building up relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to work, you know, with everyone. You know, I feel that the industry has suffered through its own reputation over the years. You know, this is why I'm keen to, you know, promote certain events. We have a schools event on Thursday evening, which what we're doing is, you know, trying to show construction as an overall picture, not just this dirty boots on the ground that a lot of people see. They see this, you know, these boards, the hoardings up for ages, and a building pops out of the ground, and, you know, orange high vis, lots of machinery, and they don't consider the 3 or 5, maybe even 10 years prior to that, all the work that's gone into getting it to that stage, all the, you know, and all the other avenues of construction that, you know, people generally don't consider. So yeah, I'm very keen to promote, you know, the industry. As far as I'm concerned, construction is for everyone, and it is for everyone. You know, there's no reason why anybody, you know, any stage, all right, if you don't make your 100% grades at school, you can still go into this sector and you can make up your grades as you go along. It just really means that you're doing schoolwork in your work life as well. There's no hardship. People mature as they get older and realise, and they think, yeah, you know what, I'll just get on with it. So yeah, for me, I'm all in to support the industry. So yeah, anything I can do would be very more than welcome. Well, thank you very much. I really do appreciate you coming along and speaking and everything else. If you do have any additional questions, etc., then please let me know. But I'd just like to thank Sam, Alison, and Samantha for coming today, and it's very appreciative. Yeah, thank you very much. That's right.